The following is brought to you by Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. TotalSeal.com. Hello everyone, I'm Joe Castello, and this will be a deep dive into the world of high-performance piston rings with two expert guests. First, Keith Jones, the Director of Technical Sales at Total Seal, and four-time NHRA champion Jason Line. 3 of those championships in Pro Stock, one of them in Stock Eliminator. Jason, world known as one of the best engine builders and tuners on the planet. We will delve into the basics. Piston rings, what are they? What are they made of? What do they do? And hopefully a deep dive into some of the greater aspects of why piston rings are a vital key to performance of any engine, race engines in particular. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Keith Jones from Total Seal. Keith, thank you so much for joining us as we take a deep dive into the world of piston rings. Thanks to the folks at Total Seal. You work at Total Seal. You're the Director of Technical Sales there, and so your life is built upon piston rings.
Yes, it is. I've been with Total Seal for a little over 22 years and have always been a gearhead. I've always been, a racer, ran dragsters for years, always been around this stuff. So we'll just say it's kind of in my DNA. A quick background of myself, from Chicago area originally. Dad ran gassers back in the 60s. And, some of my earliest memories were hanging out at a guy named Arnie the Farmer Beswick shop. And
Pontiac.
Always being told, stop leaning against that car. It's fiberglass. And me going, what? My mind has always worked. I remember laying underneath the car with my dad, as a kid, changing oil. And I was that kid that everybody hated because I always asked why. And it's why you're changing the oil, because I need to. Well, is it going to make the car run better? And he said, no, it's not going to make it run better, but it's going to make it last longer. And I never got that. It was like, well, if you're working on it, you better be working on it to make it run better. What's the point of doing all this if it's not going to be better? So, of course, we all understand the necessity of changing oil. But for me, it's always been, how do I make it better? How do I take what this is as it is and make it better? Within the rules, like like cars like stockers and super stockers, we've got some fairly restricted rules, or just open class stuff, Formula One, Pro Stock. How do we continue to make it better? And that's a foundation that Total Seal's been built on since before I ever worked there. Is how do we take this part and make it a better part? When I first started this high performance game years and years and years ago, you spend hours on, going over every little minutia, what cylinder head, what camshaft, you've got to have this piston, this manifold, this carburetor. And yet you'd go down to the, corner hot rod shop, go to your speed shop and just, give me a set of rings. It was never really part of the performance equation. And I will say that Total Seal and Matt Hartford, myself, and the rest of the guys, I think, are kind of instrumental in getting people aware that this is part of the package. There is power to be found here. There is, we'll say, losses of friction that we can reduce the friction, we can make more power. So we've really, tried to, bring the piston ring into that, part of the performance package. And I think we've been fairly successful at doing that.
Would you say, and our target audience for this is anybody who wants to know more about this portion of an engine, race engine or otherwise, this is a vital piece. And 2, even high-performance engine builders, people who are working their way up as they continue doing more and more projects, would you say the piston ring is, it sounds like it, an overlooked aspect of anyone's performance combination?
Oh, without a doubt. It's absolutely a vital piece of the puzzle, let's call it. Ring seal, if you think about a normally aspirated engine, I go back to my comment before, we spend all this time, trying to come up with the perfect camshaft and the perfect cylinder head and, exhaust sides that flow as good as the intake sides. And, we want all these things to happen. Well, guess what? In a normally aspirated engine, if the ring seal on the intake stroke isn't everything it can be, we're not taking full advantage of the other parts. We've got to improve the seal. We always talk about blow-by numbers and leak-down numbers and trying to get those numbers better, which are important, but the real key to power is efficiency on the intake stroke. How do I make that intake stroke better? How do I pull more air, more fuel into the cylinder? given, a fixed, parts that are in the engine. I've got this cam, this head. Well, anything I can do to improve that ring seal on the intake stroke is going to pull more air, more fuel, essence, make more power, give the engine builder / tuner that ability to make more power. So ring seal is critical. And not just in a normally aspirated piece. We've got to get good ring seal, forced induction, nitrous, turbo, blower. There's kind of a certain thought process or mentality out there in some of those that, you just turn the boost up. Well, hey, it's got to be as good as, a pro stock engine. If we can get the ring seal better in that engine, again, less chances of hurting pistons. We've got less blow by. We're not cooking the oil film that's in the engine. You remember, rings and pistons, all these things are right on a film of oil, just like a bearing in a crankshaft. And if we lose that oil, we're going to go metal to metal on the parts, and we're going to wear them out. So again, this critical seal is just that. It's critical, whether it's NA, or a power adder piece. We've got to get that good ring seal.
Total Seal been around for 50 years, which is longevity in the high-performance industry. Keith Jones with us. Now, Keith, what are some of the common misunderstandings, common challenges that you hear about on a regular basis?
Well, things that I deal with on a daily basis, it's kind of funny because, ring selection is kind of come 360 and not in a good way. People ask me all the time, who's our competition? And there's lots of good ring companies out there. A lot of people make good rings. But we're kind of unique in the marketplace because we're more of a, speed-oriented, performance-oriented company trying to find that last ounce. We're kind of really a job shop, I'll call it. As big as we are and as much production as we have, we still treat every job individually and trying to squeeze that last bit out of it. So it kind of puts us in a unique position. But to answer the question earlier, it's the piston companies. Years ago, pistons didn't come with rings. That was, you bought a piston, then you had to pick the ring that was right for your application. And you relied on the guy at your speed shop. For me, it was Loper's Performance here in Phoenix. Go down there and talk to my guy. Hey, what do you think the right one is for this? Now, what's happening in the ring world, and we still have a lot of people calling us, obviously, asking us, but there's also a portion that doesn't, and they just take the rings that come with the piston. They buy the piston, those are the rings that came with it. Well, are they really right for your application? You need to ask that question. Is this the right package? Does it do what I need it to do? Is it going to hold up in my world? Is it going to hold up in my application? And that is one of the biggest issues that I run into today is rings are being selected by a bore size. That's what's dictating it. Well, we've got these rings for this bore size. Whoop, they must work. I can literally tell you hundreds and hundreds of stories of people that have spent tens of thousands of dollars having to take engines back apart, pull them back out of cars, simply because there was no forethought put into the ring package for their specific application. We at Total Seal want that phone call. We want to talk to you. I like to say, make us your first call, not your last. Call me when you're getting ready to do that project. Let's talk about what the right ring set is for your application, not the last phone call when you're having a problem. How do I fix this? What did I do wrong? A lot of times they didn't do anything wrong. It's simply not the right package of parts. And the biggest offender in that is, these new thin ring packs are fantastic. I love the thin, lightweight rings. We've got new material technologies available to us, steels, PVD coatings, things that we just simply didn't have 20 years ago that allow us to use very, very thin rings. But we also have to look at the tension, the oil ring tension. That's a real critical one. A lot of people like to toss the word standard tension around. Well, standard means standard for the size of the part. Standard 3/16 oil ring, like your typical small block Chevy, has a 20-pound oil ring. A standard 3 millimeters, only 10 pounds. That's half the tension. A low tension 3/16 is 15, 16 pounds. So we have to not look at these words standard or low or high. How many pounds is that oil ring? How much tension does it have? And so many times I run into guys that have built stuff. They took the rings, got them either with the piston or in the rotating kit, however they got them. And there was never really any questions asked about, is it right? And they end up putting a 6, 7, 8 pound oil ring into a street car that's got a high volume oil pump that's flooding everything. And they've got an oil burner. Well, the first thing to get pointed at is the ring. It's got to be a ring problem. Well, it is, but it was simply the wrong part was selected for your application. So that's, it's kind of a long answer, but that's my biggest thing is people just getting the wrong parts for what their application is.
So, Keith, in terms of pistons and rules, I know that there are a lot of different rules combinations out there that you have to build piston rings for and within. Like the rules package of the class dictates what you can do with the ring. So let's say, just a random example, classes that can't have gas ports in their pistons. Like, are the rings different? Do you do anything with the rings for those classes?
Yeah, we do. One of the things that we introduced a couple of years ago is what is one of our new products, our gas-ported or gas-slotted top ring. We actually put the gas port in the ring itself. It's not allowed to be in the piston, so that's part of the rules. But when you start getting into power adder applications where we're increasing cylinder pressure dramatically, we've got to get that gas pressure behind the ring. Rings to dive into the deep dive into rings gas activate. They have to have pressure behind the ring to push them out against the wall. You're dealing, if you think about the numbers, a ring itself physically generates, depending on the size of the ring, somewhere from about a half a pound of force to maybe 7 pounds of force against the cylinder wall. Well, that force is fighting thousands of pounds of pressure in the cylinder trying to push that ring away from the cylinder wall. So we've got to get that gas pressure behind the ring and push it out. Well, in classes, a way to do that is to gas port the piston, allow extra combustion gases to get behind the ring. Well, you've got classes where that's just simply not allowed. You can't gas port the piston. So our answer was to put the gas port in the ring, which is actually, from my point of view or my thinking, it's a better place to do it. It assures that the gas port is always in the right location. It helps to eliminate reversion on the intake stroke, so we're not pulling dirty, spent, gases and oil up through the ring. It doesn't put a high pressure loading point. A gas-ported piston, that pressure point's always in the same spot, and I've seen engines where I've got accelerated bore wear because of that pressure point. In a gas-ported ring, the ring's always rotating. Rings turn, so we're always spreading that pressure out more uniformly. We don't get that accelerated bore wear. So, like I say, kind of a long answer, but it is, that's one of the newest things that we're doing is gas porting the ring for those classes where it's simply, they're not allowed to have a gas ported piston and the power gains are significant. The reductions in blow by are significant.
That's great, Keith, and I love the fact that we are delving into piston rings in an area that maybe should be the starting point rather than the final point of building an engine. But now it is time, speaking of engine builders, to bring into the show, as promised, someone who is a 4-time NHRA champion, 3 in Pro Stock, 1 in Stock Eliminator, who is widely regarded as one of the best engine builders / tuners on the planet. Previously, that would have been naturally aspirated, but now they've even dived into the world of the boosted power with a factory stock showdown. Jason Line joins us now. Jason, Keith, Jason. Hey guys, how's everybody doing?
Good. That's why you don't believe everything you read, Joe. So yeah, way too kind in your introduction for sure.
Well, I was just doing that for the show. You got to get a big intro.
Good.
Come on now. Jason, listen, I have not read that anywhere, just so you know. I've heard it around from your peers. When we were out there at the NHRA, everybody talks about you're a great tuner, you're a great engine builder, you got the hardware, so no need to be self-deprecating here. We're about to geek out on piston rings. First question, are they important?
Are they important?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Starting out with a basic question here. Are they important? Why is that?
Well, have one that doesn't seal, and you'll find out the answer to that. And we've all been to that movie for different reasons or another. But the piston ring is obviously one of the most important parts of the engine to help it make the kind of power that it's capable of producing.
Expanding on that, as Jason just said, without the ring, it's really the whole point's kind of moot. Try running one without one. But the question I'll throw at Jason: have you ever played around with 2-ring pistons? That's kind of a thing from years gone by, and don't see a lot of them these days. Though sometimes they research. Don't know if you've ever played with a 2-ring piston.
We have, for sure, in several different applications, and somewhere it belonged, somewhere it didn't belong, and we have today. Today we're still on a 3-ring, but we won a lot of races with 2-ring pistons, and it is something that sort of resurfaces every now and again, and there's no question it will come back one more time. It will for sure.
Do you think it's a good idea for us to break the conversation up in that you have and continue to build stock eliminator engines, both for yourself and for customers. The Pro Stock program has been expanding wildly, and now KB Racing has delved into Samtech Factory Stock Showdown, which is a boosted category. I would imagine, the ring selection for each of those three different styles of racing is vastly different.
It is different. Stock eliminator is kind of a unique deal because depending on the year of the engine, the new stuff has a much smaller ring than what, say, a 1970 Buick did. So, back then they had a 5/64 ring groove, and today in stock eliminator you still have to maintain a 5/64 ring groove. But thanks to folks like Keith, they make some different options that you can put in that ring groove, and certainly help those engines make more power.
Keith, an improvement on the original design, obviously, with what they're getting out of these stock eliminator engines.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything we can do to improve the ring seal and at the same time reduce that rotating friction. As we all know, we're trying to make more horsepower out of everything. And if we can get friction out of it and maintain oil control, because oil control is so critical, we've got to keep the combustion chamber dry, or we'll put it into detonation, and that's the opposite of what we want. But it's our job to figure out ways to keep reducing that friction and keep the ring seal, especially from an oil control point of view. If we can keep it dry and get all the friction out of it, we're going to deliver more power to the crankshaft. And I'll just say, I enjoy all forms of racing, from Formula One all the way down. But, I am kind of a drag racer, I am a drag racer at heart. And any class that has the word stock in it, stock, super stock, pro stock, that's my, that's me. And the reason I love that is because it's such a challenge, and I particularly enjoy working with guys like Jason and his fellow racers in stock, because you've got such a strict set of rules, always trying to find more power, find that gray areas. I enjoy that challenge, on a daily basis.
Jason, is it all about leak down and blow by and trying to get that percentage number as low as is possible?
Well, certainly blow by. Leak down, sometimes there's times where I'd like to smash the leak down tester for sure. But blow by, that's king for sure. So, I mean, whatever the cylinder head and the induction package is capable of providing, once the ring's job, it's got to keep it in there and trap it, and again doing so, as Keith said, without any added friction. So as much drag as you can take out of it is good, and that it's been fun to watch the. Again, I'm just like Keith. Anything that's got the word stock in it, I enjoy those classes. I enjoy all of them, but I enjoy those immensely, and. It's the ring in a stocker it's evolved, in just a huge way from back when I first started. Back then it was a 5/64 ring in that groove, and you back cut it, and that was about your options, or maybe you ran a Dykes ring. But nowadays we have some pretty sophisticated stuff in there that comes from the classes up above for sure.
And Keith, how did that evolution happen? Is that classes up above? Are we talking pro stock, and then you guys see what works, and you apply it to a ring for a stock eliminator racer?
Exactly. It is that true trickle down effect. Taking stuff from pro stock and NASCAR, all the things that we learn, Formula One. We do rings from that level all the way down, and taking that knowledge, from a material point of view, face profile point of view, coating point of view. And how do we implement that into a ring that will go into that NHRA legal piston? So ways of creating spacers and things will allow us to put thinner rings, lower tension parts in there, as well as oil ring designs, second ring designs, everything we can to try to again implement that that top end technology into those kinds of cars in a legal fashion.
Jason, was it challenging to let go of previous, you spoke about evolution of piston rings, right? As someone who did it one way, and then maybe there's a new design, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to go away from what has worked so well in the past. Has that been challenging to evolve with the rings as time has gone by?
Well, not for us. It hasn't. There are times, and there's different types of racers, and some definitely want to stick with what they know. The other ones, and I feel like we're more on the pioneer side. The problem with pioneers is sometimes they get an ass full of arrows. So you got to be willing to go backwards sometimes. And for us, it's no problem. For me, it's I enjoy that. And if it doesn't work, it's no big deal. It's just work. You just start over and try it. But if it does work, you reap the benefits of your willingness to get out of that box. So. We're always willing. Of course, Keith and the guys at Total Seal, they think about rings, 24/7. I think about it, every now and again. So there's lots of other parts of the engine we have to worry about. But we depend on them to come up with new stuff, and they do. And Matt's got to keep that Pro Stock car running, so they come up with new stuff all the time, and we're willing to buy it and try it for sure.
And what's a common question that when you are thinking about this aspect of the engine, whether you're dreaming up a new combination or you're spending a little time thinking about what you've got, what is a common ring-related question that you might have if you got to get Keith on the phone?
Well, we always want to know what's new. What are they coming up with next? So, and generally, our relationship is probably. Maybe a little closer than some, of course. And when they come up with something new, we don't have to call them; they'll call us. And then, of course, they know that folks like us, because we work on different types of engines. We're going to get it out there and everything that we can, and we're going to try to apply it to whatever engine we're working on. So we're usually willing to do that, and they've been great. We've had a great relationship.
So on the stock eliminator side of things, you're adhering to a very strict set of rules and an engine combination that is in a book that you have to adhere to, and you're dealing with that. The Pro Stock side of things, in Mellow Yellow Pro Stock, different kind of flying altogether, where you guys are in a rapid competitive evolution process. There are other engine builders competing, trying to figure out the best way to wring horsepower out of a 500 cubic inch naturally aspirated engine. How is the ring problem or solved in Pro Stock maybe differently than it is in something like Stock Eliminator? And I would imagine those brand new cutting edge technologies, you're maybe even more apt to try them there.
Well, Stock is way different because the ring location is defined for you, and of course the ring groove is defined for you, and Pro Stock is not. So if you can dream something up and you can fit it in there, obviously Pro Stock we keep trying to move the ring up as high as we can move it, but you're at the limitation of your cylinder head and your valve size and a lot of other things. So you can only go so far, but we keep trying to push the limits of that, and they'll keep making us rings that, I think, and Keith would know this answer. I don't know it, but I've seen evolution on a couple fronts, but he's seen it on all different types of engines. So, where the ring is today and its dimensions have drastically changed over the last 20 years, for sure.
Everything Jason said is absolutely correct. I mean, for me, from a ring standpoint, the enemy is heat, and that's I believe going to be the enemy in just about every engine, especially you get into engines. The nature of like NASCAR and again F1 and the supercar down in Australia, where it's not running for just 6 or 7 seconds. It could be potentially running for hours, and at very, very high temperatures. Heat's the enemy. So everything we can do to keep more moving forward material technologies and coating technologies allows, as Jason said, to get the ring higher on the piston, making the part even smaller. To get the heat out of the piston. We're trying to get the heat, through the piston, into the ring to the wall to the water to the radiator, et cetera. We've got to get rid of that heat. And if we can get rid of the heat, that's going to allow, tuners and guys like Jason to stand on that tune-up or lean on that tune-up even harder. So everything we can do to get that, that heat out of the piston, and yet at the same time produce a smaller, thinner, lighter part to reduce friction. That's one of the biggest challenges we have, and one of the areas that we're working at the hardest is to keep coming up with these newer and better materials to make that thinner ring that can handle the heat that these guys are generating. That's one of our biggest challenges, and one of our big avenues of development at this point in time is looking at material technologies.
Now, Jason, I know that Pro Stock, much of it is secretive. We can't reveal some of the aspects of your R&D here on this Total Seal program, because who knows, maybe the competition might be listening and perhaps they haven't thought of what you're doing. But let's look backwards once again at where you were 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago to where you are now. Is it radically different in Mellow Yellow Pro Stock?
It's significantly different, yes. Yep, sure is.
There it is. The secret nature comes out.
I love it. I was going to say, that's about all he could say.
You didn't think I was going to tell you how it was different, right?
I didn't ask.
It's very different. Of course it is. Yeah. Keith can give you a better answer on that. He can give you a general question. Ken Black and Summit paid for everything that we do, and it's really not my information to hand out. But sure, it's evolved a long ways, and 5 years from now we'll be saying the same thing.
And to me, that's amazing for something that, maybe is perceived as simplistic, Keith, but that it can be continuing to be redesigned and redeveloped.
Well, the gains get smaller, of course, but they're still there, and you can't stop working. You still have to try to go forward. So if you think that it's done, then it's done. So you have to keep digging.
Yeah, I know, and what Jason said is absolutely the cornerstone of racing is that you have to keep digging. You have to. Nobody ever comes at us, and asks us for less. I can tell you, in the 22 plus years I've been working at Total Seal, no one's ever come at me and asked me the question. I need a piston ring that makes less power. I've just got too much. Whether they can use that power or not use that power, they always want more. So that's that is the challenge that drives us. How do we get more? If you'd asked me 20 years ago, could we be producing rings, smaller than 20 thousandths of an inch? I mean, that's thinner than an oil ring rail, and survive, I would have laughed at you. I would have laughed. There's no way. But as Jason indicated, we just keep making these steps forward. They may be incremental, there may be small gains, but they're gains nonetheless. The other challenge from us is working with guys like Jason and NASCAR and F1. All these guys, they come at us with some pretty crazy ideas, and some of them work and some of them don't. But yet they're coming at us going, "Can you do this?" And then that's our job to figure out how to produce the part that their engineers and their design guys have come up with. And like I say, some pretty crazy ideas. And then allow them to test it, develop it, see if it works or doesn't work. So we're always being challenged by that, more. Everybody always wants more. And as Jason indicated, what's new? That's, the SEMA show's coming up, PRI show's coming up. I'm going to get asked that about 500 times. And trust me, it is not an easy thing to reinvent a piston ring every year, but, we continue to keep trying.
Jason, one of your championships that I did not note was with Joe Gibbs Racing as a tuner for Bobby Labonte, and if I recall correctly, if you could take me back to that era when you were trying to make engines last 500 miles in very grueling situations. Did you have any creative ideas back then? Was that in your role as an engine tuner at Joe Gibbs Racing?
No. Yeah, it was really just Bobby, but I dynoed all the engines back then. But the only car that I worked on was the 18 car. But no, my role was different back then for sure, and I was just trying to make sure that the engine would make as much power as it was safely capable of making at the time. And it was a lot of fear for a 500-mile race, and it's much different in drag racing. We can. We have definitely a lot more latitude to go out and do some different things. So, having something stay together for 600 or 700 miles now versus 25 runs is a way different mindset for sure.
The old adage, you got to finish to win, and in the pro stock world or in drag racing world, we do, not everybody, but we have that latitude. Something happens. We've got a certain period of time to come back. We can swap an engine. Again, not the easiest thing to do, but it gets done. New engine goes in, you go out, you get another shot, you give it another try. That happens in a NASCAR race, you're done, and that's a big deal. So again, there's that difference in there's stuff that we do in a pro stock type application that we don't do in a NASCAR engine, not because it won't work or can't work, but is it going to go 500 miles? Is it going to go, I think there's some mileage rules on there now. Is it going to go 2,000 miles? So that's a challenge. It's only temperature, but that durability, that longevity, it's got to finish to win, and it's got to last. So there's, like I say, those are challenges that we face, again, back from a material and a temperature point of view. We're always working on that stuff.
Jason, you started out in stock Eliminator, Buick engines, long stroke engines, now Pro Stock, of course, much shorter stroke, big bore, high revving engines. And, relatively recently, KB Racing has gone into factory stock showdown with these supercharged, boosted, Chevrolet engines. You guys work on them, and you've had great success. In fact, KB Racing getting first win as an engine builder in factory stock showdown this past year with Dave Kramer. How has diving into the boosted world been different than some of the naturally aspirated stuff you've worked on in the past?
Well, it was way different, and certainly, for me, I'm not going to say that I jumped at the chance to do it, but it's been fun, and I've learned a lot, and I learned a few things about pistons and rings as well along the way because, again, it's a different application, and these engines make a lot of power, and they'll hurt themselves in a short order if you mess the tune-up up. Where some of the other things, certainly, Buicks, they don't hurt themselves. They don't make enough power or enough heat to hurt themselves. Not in that fashion anyway. So these things you hit the wrong button on the computer and you can destroy it in milliseconds. So it's not hard, but certainly interesting. And again, it's still a stocker type application. You're not allowed to move the ring or change it dimensionally. So a different, slightly different than Pro Stock, but we did make some gains in that department as well.
The forced induction application, it's real easy to lose it, especially in the factory shootout cars. You've got such a narrow, limited set of rules. You lose that tune-up, and things that you can get away with ring-wise in a Pro Stock engine is never going to hold up in those. Not only do you have to make power, but it's about durability and longevity, and giving that that builder, giving Jason that ability to play with that tune-up and not kill the ring. It's not an engine where you're just going to, shoot, we put 2 degrees too much timing and it knocked the top ring out of it. No big deal. Well, it's a big deal in one of those cars. So we've got to be able to produce a part that's durable.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you definitely. It's different, and it's the only boosted, power adder type engine I've ever worked on. So. Your mindset is definitely different, but it's good, and there's certainly things that cross over into all the other engines. So, if you want to, there's something to learn from it, and it's been fun. So, enjoyed it.
And also very relevant to what is going on out there in the street, because most of the the kids these days, right? They like to run boosted engines, and that's kind of what makes factory stock interesting. Is it's using technology that is out there and available. So I would imagine there's a lot of people out there that are building engines like that because let's face it, a lot of people like to have that power adder.
Oh, for sure. The any of the power adder stuff, especially turbos, that stuff's it's huge, and I'm sure that he sells a lot of rings for those things, and again, you can wreck him in a hurry, so it probably makes his job a little more challenging. And haven't gotten to that world yet, but just kind of dipped our feet in here on the blown stuff, and we're going to do more of it for sure, and try to work harder on the development of it as the coming years are ahead of us here. So it's going to be fun.
Jason, do you have any questions for Keith while you've got him on the spot, if you will, about what's going on at Total Seal? Feel free to fire away.
Yeah, what have you guys done to Matt?
He's focused. He's practicing on that tree constantly, and I got to tell you, he's a very driven individual, just like yourself. And I got to tell you, his focus on going rounds is number one. And
yeah, he's on a mission right now. And I'll be honest, if I wasn't competing against him, it would be a little more entertaining to watch. But he's certainly rising to the occasion, and good for him. So hopefully hopefully we can take care of him. But we got our work cut out for us. He's doing a really good job right now.
He really is, and again, as much as he is your competitor, I know he's your friend, and we wish, of course, both of you very, very well. But for me, knowing where he started and how he's risen through the ranks over the years and how hard he's worked, I couldn't be prouder. He's done it with just a shoestring budget, and come through the ranks just like yourself. And I'm just really, I'm really happy for him to see where he's, how successful he's, becoming with this and doing well. And hope to see him close out the year well.
Yeah, I know you're biased. I don't blame you. And like I said, hey, it would be more entertaining to watch if I wasn't competing against him. So, but
exactly. Hey, I got your championship hat hanging on my wall, man.
Nice, good. Okay, well, if you have any more luck, I'd like to send you another one. So
I definitely, let's say, or vice versa. So yeah, I think that hat may be one of his motivating factors. He keeps looking at that hat.
Well, that'll make me choose a little more carefully who I send him to next time. Then.
Racing against a vendor, and you have said that they're one of you compete with and against some of the people who help you make the power. This is a perfect example.
Yeah, for sure it is, and we all got to coexist, and nothing wrong with that. Actually, good competition drives everybody to be better. From I don't care whether it's the engine building or driving or making parts standpoint, and that's what makes the world go round and makes it a better place. So it's all good.
Jason, final thought for the people out there. Again, our target audience, I like to think from, top-of-the-line engine builders with a lot of experience, maybe looking for a little, what Jason Line has to say about this subject, to the person who is just starting out, has got an LS power plant, and they're trying to build an engine for the very first time, who maybe is listening to this because they know there's going to be some knowledge and wisdom to follow up on at that. For that person who is hands-on in today's culture, right, wants to try to do this, not everybody does, frankly. Is there any initial advice that you would suggest to those people, like about how to go through the process? Clearly, total seal for the rings, but more in how to handle and tackle this world of high-performance engine building in general, for the person who is maybe new at it.
Well, I would say, as I tell my son, you get 2 ears and one mouth, so you should listen twice as much. But definitely pay attention to what whose decal is on the car and what other people are doing, because I don't care how hard you've thought about something. There's somebody else who's probably thought about it harder. So if you can pay attention, you'll learn a lot from them. I was always nervous talking to Bill Jenkins years ago, because I knew no matter what I was talking to him about, if I was speaking at all, I was telling him something, whether it was good or bad. And, he was a master at listening and figuring out how to ask the right questions. So just being keen of all that stuff, I think it goes a long ways. Excellent.
Keith, any final questions for Jason?
We'll say good luck coming into the end of the season. And I really appreciate you coming on with us, and thank you for everything that you guys have done with us and for us. And always looking forward to helping that Buick run better.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that as well. It's a lot of fun. So thank you guys for everything.
Yes, Jason, thank you very much for participating here on this deep dive into Piston Rings, Total Seal. Of course, good luck in the championship and multiple championships as you go down the road. And thank you for sharing a little insight and wisdom. And yes, you are one of the great tuners out there right now. We wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason. Jason Line with us here. And Keith, how about that? Jason doing a deep dive into Pro Stock, Factory Stock, and Stock Eliminator.
It's awesome. Jason's such a great guy and such an incredible builder, great tuner. Like you said, but the foundation, he's a great guy. He's just, multi-time world champion, but at the same point in time, completely approachable. Go up, ask him any question, and he's going to answer. He's going to help you out. He's a racer's racer.
And we did get into an area like we're kind of like in the R&D secret world, and clammed up a little bit, rightfully so. Like, to me, That's interesting. And I know you guys deal with Formula One. You deal with IndyCar. So drag racing isn't the only area where there is potential for even industrial espionage, right? Like they got to keep their secrets.
Oh, no, incredibly. It's like we were kind of talking about a little earlier, if we're all going to make the same kind of power, or make the same kind of power, eventually we're all going to evolve to the same thing. But, along that pathway, and even when you hit the end of that pathway, it's incredibly guarded. We have certain companies that we deal with. Of course, we have non-disclosure agreements. I can't say anything about what we do. I can't name any of them specifically. But we have companies that we deal with. We have to use encrypted email servers. We use encrypted phones for communication. It's so secretive. So yeah, and it goes right into pro stock and NASCAR. So when he clammed up, justifiably so or rightly so, you just can't talk about it.
That is great. That's what makes it interesting and exciting and mysterious, whether you're a fan of Pro Stock, Stock Eliminator, Factory Stock Showdown, NASCAR, otherwise. That is part of motorsports. And on the flip side of it, if you're building an engine yourself and you're trying to find power, we learned here today, your first call should be about the rings and build from that point. Keith, excellent job. I appreciate what you've done. As Director of Technical Sales for Total Seal, you have a wealth of knowledge, and this is just the first example where we're going to dive in with a well-known engine builder and talk rings. There's a lot of other worlds out there, though, right? Like Jason, naturally aspirated with a touch of boosted stuff with the Showdown stuff, but there's also big-inch nitrous oxide that we can delve into. There's blower stuff. There's all kinds of stuff that lies out there waiting for us to uncover.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like Jason, alluded to, everything's a power adder today. Everybody wants to throw twin turbos or a blower on it. From my side of it, everybody wants to stroke their engine. And there's a lot of things that we can talk about. And we can really deep dive into this stuff because there's a lot of mistakes that are being made out there by persons putting these together. They're not looking into the mechanics and the relationships of how all these things work together. And just because you can put a certain package together doesn't mean you should. That's part of what we field every day is phone calls about this problem, about that problem that's perceived as a ring problem, really has absolutely nothing to do with the rings. We're kind of the redheaded stepchild. We get blamed for everything. Flat tire on the way to the movies. That's one of those piston rings again. So we have to kind of, I don't want to say we're experts on anything, but we have to be pretty knowledgeable about a lot of aspects because, piston rings, cylinders, windage, all these things affect, how the engine performs. So we've got to kind of touch bases on all of it. And we can certainly dive deep into this, into all of these subjects.
Well, let's do it, and I thank you for taking the time. Keith Jones from Total Seal, greatly appreciated. Of course, Jason Line, greatly appreciated. Keith, thank you for your time. And to the listeners out there, of course, you're going to want to stay logged in, stay locked in, and check out for the next one as we're going to take another deep dive on behalf of Total Seal into the world of piston rings. TotalSeal.com, the leader in ring seal technology. And oh, by the way, Keith, everything is made in America, which I love.
Absolutely. Right here in Phoenix, Arizona.
Keith, thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Joe.
Keith Jones from Total Seal, the Director of Technical Sales, a lifetime of experience there, plus Jason Line, the three-time Mellow Yellow Pro Stock World Champ in the NHRA, plus a Stock Eliminator Champ, family business, building Stock Eliminator engines and engines of all kinds, and now works at KB Racing and is constantly in the championship hunt and pushing the edge of what is possible with naturally aspirated engines and now even working on some of the boosted stuff in the Samtech Factory Stock Showdown. That brings us to conclusion on this first edition. Folks at Total Seal know that there are a lot of questions out there. Matt Hartford came to me and said, hey, can we do something on WFO radio about piston rings? I said, absolutely we can. And I really think it will have a great audience because there are so many people who are curious about the secret sauce and what goes into these high-performance engines. And people want to build their own engines in that you might have an LS or a Coyote, you'd be working on your Mustang or your Challenger or otherwise. And going to go down the road of what to buy and what to get and what to think about and what to try to accomplish. And the folks at Total Seal can help you with all of that, starting out with what type of ring needs to fit your piston. Go to TotalSeal.com for more information. Stay tuned. There will be more coming in the future, more engine builders, more power plants, more different combinations. Thanks to Matt Hartford and Total Seal. Thanks to Keith and, of course, Jason Line. Lots of great information. Greatly appreciated. My name is Joe Castello. Thank you for listening.